Hello there, David. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, Sally. How are you today?
I'm all right, thank you. I can't believe how dark it's getting already. So, guys, thank you so much for those of you tuning in today. We are here to talk about additional services. Now, this is one of my favourite topics, as David knows, because he's heard me talk about it 1,000 times probably. But so many letting agents, we just do two things, lettings and management. And that's it. That's all we do. That's all we've done since the 70s. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why should we change? We've always done it like that. This is how we do things. This is how everyone else does things. Therefore, this is the way things have to be, apparently. But that's not the case. And I've brought one guy here, David Adams, who is the MD of Cavendish. And he's going to be sharing with us how he has really added loads of additional services into his business and really optimized his revenue. And added how much have you added, David, so far?
It's around 1.4 million now since I started working with you.
Just a mere 1.4 million. You know, it's not a lot of money, just a little bit. It's a little squeeze on, a bit of frosting of extra juice there. 1.4 million by basically adding additional revenue and squeezing the juice. So we're going to dig deep and find out what David actually did to generate that revenue. And this is to hopefully move some of you to really see that there's so many more things you can do with a letting agency business to generate revenue. It doesn't have to be the way we've always done things. So, David, thank you so much for joining me here. So just talk to me, before we met, where were you? What was the business like? And what made you want to make a change?
Yeah, so we're talking about 3 years ago now, and we were in a position where I would say for probably about 3 or 4 years straight, our turnover was pretty much exactly the same, give or take £5,000-10,000 a year. And our profit was stagnant. I mean, as a percentage, we're probably talking sub 10%. And it just stayed the same, if not just went slightly lower. And we were just at a standstill. We were taking on new landlords, but we were losing the same amount of landlords out the back end. So we were just staying stagnant.
And how long had that been going on, do you think, roughly?
I would say about 3 or 4 years. 3 or 4 years that we stopped growing, which felt like we were going backwards.
And did you try other things before you come to see us? Was there other things that you looked at?
To be honest, no. I don't think we knew where to turn, what to do. We just knew what we knew. We knew what worked for many, many years, but what became very apparent is that those things didn't work anymore. So
what sort of things were you doing to generate more business?
So this is going to sound embarrassing now, but we were doing landlords wanted posts on social media. That was probably about it, to be honest. We just need more landlords. We were cutting fees left, right, and centre, to match the competition. Which is not what we do now, but that's what we thought worked.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if you don't know, you don't know, do you? And that's the problem. So what was the first thing that you changed? You came to an event of ours, didn't you? What was the event you came to? Just tell me a little bit about how you ended up there. Because
funnily enough, the first event I actually did was actually a webinar very similar to this, actually, which we're on today. So it feels a bit, sort of special, actually, that that now I'm talking on one of these, webinars too, because I watched the webinar and, you were sort of coaching on a few different strategies. And obviously at the end of it, I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks before Agent Rainmaker Live. And I came along to Agent Rainmaker Live 2022, so 3 years ago. And the first thing we did is we upped all of our monthly margins. Now, at the time, we had a portfolio of 500 properties. And that added 60K to our bottom line straight away.
Just one letter.
Just one letter. And that was, to be very honest, it was terrifying. However, out of 500 landlords, I think we had a conversation with about maybe half a dozen people. And from that one letter that we sent, out of those, 5-6 people, not a single landlord left us.
That's crazy, because most people think that as soon as you put your fees up, everyone's going to leave. And I have this conversation with so many people in other industries as well. If I put my fees up, everyone's going to leave. But no, they don't. It's crazy. There'll be that one landlord. There's always one that you're thinking of that you think, oh my God, he'll walk. And quite often there's that one landlord that is a pain or moans or whatever, but most people are happy to accept it.
We all get those letters, don't we, off British Gas or Eon or whoever, saying that, your bill's going up, this year by CPI, RPI, whatever. And we all have a grumble, don't we? But most of us don't do anything about it. So I guess it's the same sort of cycle. Most people actually who we had conversations with actually thanked us. Not for the fee increase, sure, but it was actually an opportunity for them to get in touch with us and sort of have a chat with us and say, do you know what, we actually do value what you do, and we're actually surprised you hadn't increased your costs sooner.
That's crazy, isn't it? Like that, you must feel a little bit like, damn.
I know how long we could have increased our fees years ago, but you just don't, do you? Because you don't know.
Well, you just want to keep your landlords happy. You want to keep your stock. That's what you want to do, and you don't want to risk it. And I mean, it must have been quite nerve-wracking for you to do that.
Yeah, and I think so. As being a part of the Agent Rainmaker community, it's a wonderful community to be part of, and there's over 100 people that have done that and can tell you, to your face and say, look, people won't leave if you do this. People will not leave you. So I think something that we found is certainly being part of this community has really given us the courage. But something I always say is motivation comes from action, and actually sending that first letter and then obviously reassessing things, sort of 2 or 3 weeks after, and we hadn't lost anyone, actually gave us the motivation to do more. So the second thing we did is we actually rewrote all of our terms and conditions with our contractors, and that added another 40k. So we actually added 100k to the business in about 10 weeks.
It's amazing. That's amazing. Crazy. And people think it's not possible. It's crazy. I always say this, that letting agents, we're sitting on a gold mine, and we all think that we have to charge a set fee, we have to do everything for that set fee. And if you actually sit down and work out how much you actually do for that £60 a month, £100 a month, £200 a month, you could not pay someone to do that for that amount of money. So I'm going to give you 150, David, but I need you to pop around, do an inspection, to organise all my maintenance for me. You need to carry all the liability for all that. You're going to collect the rent, chase the arrears, issue Section 21, serve Section 8 notices, deposit adjudications, manage my tenancy, deal with any negotiations, hold keys, go out in the middle of the night, all that sort of stuff. It's just like, you couldn't even get someone to attend for a key holding late at night for £200. I mean, it's just crazy. And yet we just throw all this stuff in, and a new piece of legislation comes in, and we've got some new laws coming soon. But you add all these new pieces of legislation, you go, yeah, I'll deal with all the EICRs. Yeah, I'll deal with all the immigration checks. Yeah, I'll do all of the smoke alarms. Yeah, I'll get all the carbon monoxide alarms sorted. I'll do all of that. I'll do all of this. I'll do all of that, everything. And we're just going to do it, including our fee. And it's just crazy. Any other business, I mean, try doing that with your solicitor, oh, by the way, can you just do this, get lost. The clock is ticking, we're charging you.
Absolutely, yeah. You wouldn't go to your accountant, would you, and say, could you do my tax return for free this time? And do this extra, and send this letter for me, give me this advice. They'd go, yeah, that's fine, here's a bill.
Yeah, it's a big one as well. And it's like, why do we do that? I don't know if we're unique in this industry. I don't know if it's just us, but it seems very strange that as an industry, we literally have bundled everything in and we just don't value our time. And I think that must be a big thing for you as a business, really, is now valuing your time. Have your staff's mindset changed? Has your mindset changed around time?
Yeah, I mean, we worked out what our hourly rate was, and really sort of built that into our charges. And when you actually work that out, by working out your expenditure and hours that everyone works, it's actually quite scary, because you realise that when you go and do an inspection on a property, I think a lot of people think, well, that's only cost me, the petrol and the mileage. But the reality is, you've got staff to pay, you've got offices to heat and rent to pay, etc. It's not just about the car and the petrol, so to speak, is it? It's the whole thing. So our hourly rate, I think when we worked it out, was about, the first time we did it was about £24 an hour per staff member, just to go and do an inspection.
That's without any profit. That's just the cost.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So if you're doing that for free, that's costing you £25. Do that.
It's crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. So, I mean, it couldn't have been that easy. You've added 1.4 million. There must have been some challenges along the way. What sort of challenges have you faced in going from a we've always done it this way business to a there must be something new, let's try it type business, and putting these changes in play and making this additional revenue? What sort of challenges have you faced along the way?
I think so. As a management team, so I went to Agent Rainmaker Live, and came back very excited, and right guys, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to send this letter, we're going to up our fees, and the first thing I got, went back to sort of the boardroom, and most of the board who hadn't been to Agent Rainmaker Live were, oh my God, you can't do that, all the landlords will leave, you cannot do that, we'll literally lose everything, or why don't we send 10 letters at a time, over a year period or something, just in case all the landlords leave? And I just said, look, we're doing it. And then a month later, 2 months later, when no landlords had left, and it was like, okay, maybe this will work. So then what we did then is we started to charge for inspections. Now, we'd always done inspections for free, and you won't believe this, but we did 4 a year for landlords.
Very nice of you. Lovely person.
Oh, I know. Yeah. It's, so that was costing us an absolute arm and a leg. So the big challenge there was when we started to charge for inspections, we did have a few people who, perhaps weren't overly happy, but we trained the team on how to overcome that. But not all the team are on board, perhaps, because, we had a lot of staff who perhaps, had grown up in the business whereby, their job was to keep the landlords happy. And perhaps as tenancy managers, their job role was to keep landlords happy. They didn't see the bigger picture about making income. And to be honest, we actually used to call them property managers. But as part of the whole mindset thing, and this really helped the team, we actually renamed their job title tenancy managers, because we realized actually you're not just managing a property, doing maintenance, you're actually managing the tenancy, so 170, 180, however many pieces of legislation. That's actually been a really good pivot point to actually show our worth to landlords, because actually you're not just paying us, to do the gas safety certificates and fix the boiler when it breaks. You're actually, you're paying us to manage all of those bits of legislation for you and actually keep you safe.
And so many landlords think that all we do is organise the maintenance. I mean, I remember when I was on the road, so many people said, but I can do the maintenance, I don't need you. And I said, well, it's not about the maintenance. It's about Section 21, Section 8, the ASTs, the notices, the deposit registration, the keeping you safe, the liability and the risk. It's the whole shebang. The maintenance is actually quite a small part of it in comparison. But landlords just don't seem to get that quite often. And I think a lot of letting agents probably also don't understand the liability and risks that they take. Talk to me about your team. You've put all these charges in play. What's the difference with your team and your office now to how it was back then? Is it the same vibe? Is it the same feeling? Is it feel different? Does it look different?
Completely different. So if you walked into our lettings offices 3-4 years ago, everyone had an administration head on them. Very much it was an administrative team. Not that there's anything wrong with that from a compliance point of view. Obviously, we're very good at crossing T's and dotting I's, etc. If you went into one of our offices now, Sally, everyone's a rock star. It's a sales team. Our lettings team just do lettings, but they are there. It's not quite like the Wolf of Wall Street, but they are there making outbound phone calls, closing deals, and they've very much got an income generation head on them. They all get paid, for any extra income that they generate for the company. They get paid a percentage of that. So they're all fee earners basically.
That's amazing, and I think that comes from its mindset, but it's also leadership as well, isn't it? You've had to. I see this happen quite a lot actually, where people say, right, I want you guys to go and do that. And one thing I know you've done, which is really cool, is you've led from the front, haven't you? It's like you've led from, right, come on guys, we're going to do this. This is what's going to happen. Just talk to me about that, because I think that's one of the things a lot of people miss. Is it's not just about them just doing a bit or you just doing a bit. It's a team effort, isn't it? It's about all doing it together in one way, shape or form.
Yeah, Yes, a lot of the changes that we've made, if we have any landlords, who wanted to speak to us about, perhaps a new service or additional fees, let's say, then I would handle most of the initial calls, and we turn that into training. So either the staff would actually listen or watch me actually do those calls, or we would, perhaps clip them up or record videos, etc. For training, and so they very much, seen from the front that it works, and not all the staff to begin with believed that it would work. But I think as well, we've been very transparent with them and actually taken them on this journey with us. And I think as well, as a part of, they've seen, I spoke at Agent Rainmaker Live a couple of years ago, didn't I? And I think that again, that really helped perhaps the credibility of the changes we were making, because they saw me on stage telling, our story about Cavendish and the changes we've made, and other agents, then, looking up to us, and they thought, what, we're part of this. And that's really, really helped. The morale of the team is so high.
It's amazing. You've done so well. You really have. I mean, how does it feel as a business owner now? You've added 1.4 million to the business. I mean, it must feel pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, we'd like to, double that. But no, it's good. If I think about what the business was like 3 or 4 years ago compared to what it's like today, I mean, it's a completely different business. I mean, I think as well, the more sort of changes we make give us the motivation to do even more, and we've systemized everything. We've got so many additional services now. We don't just do lettings and management. We do webinars, we do off-market sales for landlords. It's a completely different business, and everyone is focused on completely different things. Perhaps a few years ago, we'd be focused on just letting that property, and perhaps it's just completely different. Whereas now, I think we very much treat every landlord. There are opportunities everywhere. Not all landlords want a free valuation. So to speak. You've got landlords who want to buy properties, landlords who want to sell properties, landlords that are in a bit of a mess from a compliance point of view, and they all want different things. And we've actually what we've done is we've actually created solutions for all of those problems. So yeah, we see things through a completely different lens.
So your targets now, one of the things I've spoke about before is that so many businesses, letting agency business now, they're still banging that lettings drum. We've got to let 20 lets, 30 lets, 40 lets, 50 lets, whatever the figure is, depending on the size of the business. But they've also got this lettings target, and we all know it's tough out there. There's not loads of landlords ringing up, "Can you manage my house, please?" That those calls are few and far between, and so targets have evolved now, haven't they? And you mentioned a few additional services there. How have you structured your team targets? It's not just on lets, it's on off markets and different things now. So what would you say is the split? Is it a third between the different services, or is it 50-50, 60-40? How have you divided?
I would say so this month we've had, I would say off the top of my head, probably about 4 or 5 new managed lets this month, but I know one of the team has got 9 tenancy takeovers this month from they're all tenanted properties, which is double what we've done, from empty property valuations. So actually, I mean, gone are the days of chasing loads of valuations. I used to do valuations, sort of 4 or 5 years ago, and I'd sometimes do 30 a month. Whereas now, if we do 1 or 2 a week, that's all right. And because there aren't that many empty properties, because I think because tenants are staying longer, and more landlords are using self-service models like open rent, or they're just doing it themselves. They're finding tenants on Facebook, Gumtree, etc. Then there's not that many landlords actually ringing up letting agents and saying, "Hey, I've got an empty property. Can you help me find a tenant?" And actually, if you're a landlord and you want to find a tenant, it's actually quite easy to do, because there's so many tenants that there's more tenants, than there are properties. So if you're a landlord and you want to find a tenant, it's actually quite easy to do. Whereas what we do is we actually go after landlords who have got tenants, but things might not be going to plan. So that's our big push, is looking at the let only to fully managed. And I know the stat that when the white paper was done, maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago, it was 82% of landlords don't use letting agents for managed services. It's probably more.
It's the biggest market out there, isn't it? Biggest market.
Yeah. And
let only landlords.
most letting agents will be going after that 18%. We go after the 82 because that's where the gold is.
As your numbers prove, 9 have come from let only to fully managed conversion, 4 have come from new lets. You've got your on markets, your off markets as well. And, you know, I think so many letting agents out there are still banging that, we've got to do more lets, we've got to do more lets. It's hard. It's like running through treacle. But if you start to change your mindset from just doing standard lets, so right, okay, we're going to focus on let only to fully managed conversions, we're going to focus on market and off markets because that actually gives you managed stock. You can actually generate just as much business from those 3 services. In fact, more than you'll be able to do just by doing standard lets, because the market is changing, and it's been 18% is a small market for 19,000 letting agents to aim for.
So the off-market sales is actually one of my favourite services that we do now. So go back sort of 2 years ago, and we were losing quite a lot of our managed stock because landlords were deciding to sell up, and they would call in the office and saying, "Hi, can I serve notice on my tenant? So I want to sell." So the rental team were going, "Oh, yeah, brilliant. I'll refer you to the sales team because they get a little commission for that." And then the sales team were going, "Oh, happy days. We've got a sales valuation. We've got a property we can sell." So we were serving notice on the tenant. The tenant would move out. We put it on the market for sale, sell it. And then, the sales team would be over the moon. But we were losing our stock. So actually, although we were making commission out of selling properties, we were actually losing our managed income. So we thought, right, we need to plug the hole here. So what we started to do was actually sell those properties to other buy-to-let landlords. And I think, there are landlords leaving, but if you look at the amount of properties that are available for let, it's not that too dissimilar than it was pre-COVID times. And what we're finding is that big portfolio landlords, they're just buying more, whereas perhaps your single let landlords, retiring landlords, they're getting out. So whenever we run Facebook ads looking for investors who want to buy tenanted buy-to-let properties, we are literally inundated. When we first turned our funnel on about 2 years ago, we had in the first sort of 2 days, we had 40, 50 people. And we were like,
crazy, isn't it? And yet people don't think there's buyers out there, but they're out there, aren't they?
Yeah, and so what we do is we don't charge a fee to the selling landlord, so that incentivizes them because you can sell free of charge. They get to keep the rent up until completion because we don't serve notice on the tenant. And then from the buyer's perspective, they're buying a ready-to-go unit, that's had a compliance check on it, so it's all above board. And because the way I sell it to the buyer is if you were buying a buy-to-let property and it was an empty property, as soon as you complete on it, you start paying your mortgage, let's say, if you've got a mortgage, and you've got to give it a lick of paint, maybe it needs a little refurb. Then you've got to go to a letting agent who will advertise it. The tenant might not move in for a month. You've got to pay the letting agent, obviously. All that could take 2, 3, 4 months. And during that 2, 3, 4 month time, you've been paying your mortgage. So if you think of it as a business, you've been spending loads of money. You've got expenditure, but you've got no turnover. So if you buy a tenanted property, and let's say you complete on a Friday and the rent comes in the following week, then you've got a return on investment straight away. So what we actually do is we charge a sourcing fee to the buyer, which is 2%, which in some cases is double what most estate agents would earn from selling a property. And then we tie the buyer into 2 years worth of management with us at our full fee of 12% plus VAT. So it's a win-win. So we're earning double from selling the property, and we're actually, going to get 2 years worth of guaranteed business out of them. And one of the properties we've recently done this on was actually managed with another letting agent. So we've basically taken it off the other letting agent and made a fee out of selling it, and now got the lettings business as well. And that letting agent's probably thinking, what's just happened?
They don't do an off-market service, that's why.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I've got to mention this. We've got the Renters' Rights Bill coming. So, are you worried about this? Do you see it as an opportunity? Do you see it as a challenge? Do you think everyone's going to leave the market? What do you think is going to happen with the Renters' Rights Bill?
I went to a networking event about a year ago, and it was with a load of estate agents, and we had a speaker in, and they said, the Renters' Rights Bill, what does everyone think? And everyone was doom and gloom. And I was the only person that said, I didn't say it was great, but I said, this is a huge opportunity. I'm actually, this is brilliant. And I was the only person in the room, which I suppose isn't surprising because, of my new mindset. I very much see this as a massive opportunity. It's great content for us. There's a lot of landlords out there who really need our help. So, if you're a letting agent watching this, you need to be using the changes in legislation like the Renters' Right Act to basically share your knowledge. Go out there, start doing landlord webinars, start educating people, be that thought leader, be that expert in your area. There's a lot of letting agents who aren't, they're not even putting anything out there about this. We go on valuations, not me personally, but my team go out on valuations and meet new clients, and they're perhaps one of 3 letting agents that have been out. No one else is mentioning this.
It's crazy. That is crazy. I mean, it's one of the biggest. Well, I think it is the biggest thing in the marketing industry 30 years. So I think that it's just crazy that people aren't talking about it. And we should be educating the landlords, not other people. We should be doing that, shouldn't we?
Absolutely. And from a 82% of landlords don't use letting agents. So there's 82% of, the thousands of landlords out there who really need us. And I think, we are going to see a change. I think that there will go the other way, and more landlords will be using letting agents. But if you want to be one of those letting agents, you've got to start shouting. You've got to start educating and be that thought leader, be that expert in your area, because there's not a lot of agents doing this. So it's a great opportunity. If there's no one in your town doing that, be that first person, because that's what
82% again, isn't it? By doing that, you'll be attracting the 82%, the let only landlords, the hard fast. I've always managed my properties. I don't need you, because you'll be educating them on things they don't know, and they'll realize overwhelm. Like, oh my God, I'm going to have to do this and this and this, and panic. And you're there educating them. So
we did a webinar 2 weeks ago, and we do webinars quarterly now. We've been doing them just over 2 years, and we had 164 people live on our webinar. It was just over 90 minutes long. By the end of the webinar, we still had 95% of people were still watching. So the content was clearly engaging. From that webinar, we had 25 people book what we call a tenancy health check, which is like a tenancy audit. And so far, we've done half of those calls already. And so far from that webinar, we're looking at potential income to us, for landlords, giving them their rental property of around £15,000 to £18,000.
That's amazing.
So there is gold out there.
For an hour and a half, 2 hour webinar. It's just, why would you not do it? I don't understand. It's just crazy.
What would you pay to actually get 160 landlords all in one virtual room?
Of other clients, other letting agency clients as well. They're not your clients. They're
no
fresh new clients.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane.
Very powerful, very powerful.
So just describe to me now how your life is different. Your typical day is different to what it was before. What did you do before? What do you do now? What's the difference?
Yeah. What did I do before? So you would find me doing valuations. You would find me going and taking properties on, so going back with a camera and doing all the marketing, etc. Doing the floor plan. I would be doing a bit of social media, perhaps. I'd be doing admin as well. I'd be stuck in the weeds. I'd basically be doing, running around doing everything. I'd be one of the worst things, which I admitted last year, was that whenever we had a property that had a prepayment meter that needed topping up, because as a director, I had a company credit card, it was me that would go and top it up. And, that would be a property that was 45-minute drive away. So I'd spend 2 hours going and topping up, the electric for free, by the way, for the landlord. I mean,
I'm just shake, David.
Great, absolutely crazy. So my day now, so I don't work in the business. I'm not a letting agent. I get involved in the marketing, so I do the webinars. I'm, the face of the company, so to speak. And I love, I get involved in a lot of the lead gen side of things. So creating new services, new funnels, etc. But my main thing that I do now is I like to go and learn from other experts like yourself, absorb new ideas, come up with new ideas and then implement that into our business and actually almost be like the coach for the staff. So I'll go and learn from someone and think, right, this is what we're going to do. And then I'll get all the staff around and then coach them on how to do that. So I don't actually work in the business. I purely just work, on the business and, networking with people, looking at further acquisitions. We've done 2 acquisitions already, so buying other letting agents. So that's what I do now.
So you're a bit like the R&D department, research and development, go out and find new things, develop them, put them in play, test them, train them, work them, the marketing, and you've been a business owner. You're doing what you should be doing. And it sounds like you've got a real thirst for learning now, which perhaps you didn't have before.
No, I mean, for example, to put this in a tangible sort of thing here. So, I wrote a letter that we sent out on inspections to start charging for inspections, and that took an hour to put together, let's say, for argument's sake, and it generated 80k. So that's an 80k an hour task.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I go and do evaluation, and let's say, the average property that comes on the market with us that lets probably brings in about £2,000 a year's worth of income by the time you add in all of the charges. So if I can do evaluation that comes on the market, then you could say that was a £2,000 an hour task, maybe. If I do some admin, some tenancy admin, that's probably what we would call a £10 an hour task.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as business owners, we really need to be, not focusing on the lower level stuff that we can perhaps outsource, we can automate, use a VA, delegate to someone else, and really focusing on those higher level tasks, because that's what moves the needle.
But the trouble is, and you're absolutely spot on. That is absolutely what people need to do, but they don't know what to do. And so one of the big things I found people saying to me, I can let go of this, but then what am I going to do? They don't know what is an £80,000 task. They don't know what to do and I'm going to just dig a little bit deeper with you. Beforehand, you could have done all this stuff, but you didn't know how to do it. And this is one thing that I've noticed with a lot of long-term businesses, which yours is how many years now is your business?
32 years.
32 years. So it's really easy when you've been doing something for a long time and you're market leaders and you've got a great business, which you did and still do. But when you first had a great business, or it was standing still, you had a great business. It's easy to think, I've tried everything, I know everything, there can't be anything else. And unless you get out there and start looking, you'll believe that to be true. Was your business ever in that position?
Where we're sort of stuck, sort of not looking with outside of the four walls of the business, do you mean?
Yeah, well, the belief is that, I can remember I stood there for like 10 years and it was like, yeah, well, on the bee's knees, we're the number one, we're doing great. No, you couldn't teach me anything. I've done this 20 years. I know what I'm doing. That sort of mindset. And so many people come with that mindset, but they just don't know what they don't know. And that's the problem, that they never will unless they go and look.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, I was a know-it-all. So I'd reached sort of peak in my career where I thought, I've done this. I've done this since I was 14 years old as a Saturday boy. Worked my way up in sales, done lettings for 12 years. At that point, there isn't anything you could teach me. I was a know-it-all, and then I stumbled on this whole other world. And it's like you open the treasure trove. It's like opening Pandora's box, isn't it? And you think, oh my God, there's so much we could do to the business. And it just changes your mindset. And so I would say I've gone from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all. So now I'm like you said before, everyone says this about me. I'm obsessed with learning. So I just want to learn everything and, just want to get 1% better every day. Whether that's something to do with the business, personally, I'm just constantly just on a mission just to get better. But you've got to open your mindset and you've got to change your mindset. So it's not as simple as people think, but you've got to. Listening to people that have done it is the start. It's changed my life personally. I earn more than I did 3 years ago. I bought a nice new house a year ago, and I don't think, on a personal level here, I don't think I would live in the house I do now, and perhaps be doing the things I do on a sort of day to day or weekly basis, with my family, if I hadn't have come to Agent Rainmaker Live. I would still be in that. I'd still be valuing houses.
Doing evaluation.
I'd still be paying bloody, topping up gas meters or something, wouldn't I?
It is like it's a horrible word to use because it's got connotations, but it's like an awakening, isn't it? When you go from know it all to learn it all, and it's a great phrase that I'm going to nick that. But when you go from know it all to learn it all, it's freeing, because all of a sudden you just become a thirst for knowledge, for new things, and the other side of it, you realize, and I don't think you, and I certainly don't think I will ever be a know-it-all ever again, because these brains, these humans, we are, just mere humans. We cannot know it all, and so we will always be learning. And it's like it's a never-ending journey. David, honestly, you've been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm really excited that you've been here. It's always great to talk to you. I know you've had a great journey, and you've still got loads more to do, as we all have. We're all still growing and learning. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, David, for coming and joining me here today. Have a great night, everybody. Bye bye.